Alrighty. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic non-classic. This is number 2355 and Doubleshot number 61. Yeah, 61. It's 2361 and Doubleshot 2255. I have Masterworks Fantastic Four Volume 20, which I thought I reviewed this one already, turns out I didn't. And Masterworks 4 Nick Fury, plus some issues that were not clicking that trip for some reason, but I'll get to that. Okay, we have for this book, for Masterworks Fantastic Four Volume 21, this book collects issues 232, 240, Annual 16, and Fantastic Four Rose number 1. Yes, this is the official start of John Byrne's run. He did have one issue from the previous book during Doug Moak's run. He probably took over the book, and this is my personal theory. He partook of the book probably because he realized that Doug was not a good fit for Fantastic Four, so that's why he took over the book. And if you're really, really curious, though, how long does John Byrne stay as the writer of this very book? Okay, to answer that question, how long does it say is the writer and artist of this book? For quite a while, actually. Of course, it came on with the previous issue. Let's see. Here we go. This is basically a full run for him. This is basically his return to the book after he briefly left. Actually, this is the first time as a writer, and he stays as a writer from 232, which is in this book here, and he doesn't leave until 294. Yeah, he's on there for that long. He's on there for 2 years, but he'd been working on the book since 1979. Though he did take a brief year off. But if you think about it, mostly he's on this book for 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. 6, 7 years maybe. So he was on this book mostly since 1979, and he didn't leave until 1986. Which is when the issue 94 came out. Yeah. So yeah, basically you think about it, it's like 7 years on this book, which, wow, that's quite lengthy. So you're probably thinking, is this an era of awesomeness like it is with Iron Man, with Dave Michelini and Bob Layton? Yes, this is definitely an era of awesomeness. Now, basically, John Byrne is the writer and artist for... He's the writer and artist for pretty much all these issues. He co-writes the annual. The annual was written by... he doesn't do the annual. It was written by Ed Hannigan. Stan Lee co-does 236. Steve does the artwork for Annual 16. The book covers the period of July 1981 and concludes in March of 1982. Now, the first issue is Fantastic Four vs. El Diablo, because of course, basically, you have John Byrne have them take on him first. Yep. Yeah, there's also stuff here with Frankie Ray, where she's developing powers. And this is basically set up for her to become a Herald Galactus in the later issues, which I'm going to talk about that when I get to it. Yep. Okay, so anything else happen in these issues? Well, the annual was mostly put the introduction of a character known as the Dragon Lord, and I think he may have been there for that only annual. So in 233, mostly you have the Human Torch take on Hammerhead. Yeah, where in the issue he basically burns Hammerhead's arm, revealing his exoskeleton. Oh yeah, and the villain, brought back by a crazy scientist from mentioning Peter's Amazing Spider-Man, which of course basically would do that. Yeah, 2-3 is the Human Torch, just like starting them. Yeah, then pretty much basically we have, get this, we have Ego the Living Planet show up in issue 234. Yeah, in 234, we have Ego the Living Planet. He shows up here for like one issue. It's been a while since he was last seen. If you're really curious, his last appearance was back in Thor 228, back in 1974. So at this point, it had been 7 years since his last appearance. And he's here even for the very next issue. After this, next appearance is in pages of ROM. Yeah, he appears in ROM next after this. After 2 issues of that, then pretty much basically we have The Triple Ties 236, where basically features the return of Doctor Doom and, of course, dealing with, well, this issue also basically has, like, basically a representation of the first appearance of Fantastic Four done in new style, which I thought was really cool. The annual, like I mentioned, basically is taking on a guy called the Dragon Lord. Yeah, in case you're curious though, he is here for this is his one and only appearance. This guy, he is the guy who tries to control Dragon Man, but that's it. Yeah, he's like here was one thing, and then basically we have in 237 we have Spinneret. Yeah, she's here for one appearance. This is her one and only appearance. And then in 238 we have, well, Frank Gary's backstory revealed in 238. We also first appearance of Aunt Petunia, a character frequently mentioned at this point. 239 is basically her showing off her powers, and her being sort of accepted as sort of a semi-member of the Fantastic Four. 239, very briefly. And we have a debut group called Wendy's Friends, and they appear a few times. Yeah, they appear in this issue, and they don't appear again until Fantastic Four Volume 6, when Dan Slott writes the book. Yeah, they're basically these cats. Then 240 features an appearance by the Inhumans. Yep. This is also the first appearance of Luna. Yes, this is Luna's first appearance in this very issue. So yeah, you gotta thank John Byrne for creating the character Luna. It's the 240 is an excellent issue featuring the Inhumans. I thought the book was really good. Everybody rose Fantastic Four because basically this was, I believe at the time this was their 20th anniversary, so that's why basically everything called double size, whatever. Really good stuff here. I love it. I gave this book roughly a, I'm gonna give it roughly a 9. I'm gonna get 10 out of 10. It's really good. Next up we're gonna have is basically, well, this stuff that was quite interesting. We are discussing next up we're discussing Marvel Masterworks Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Volume 2. For some strange reason, I do not know why this is. Issues 150 to 153 are not included as Marvel Masterworks for some reason. You're thinking, really? Are they bad issues? No. They're part of our new storyline. Now, these are the last issues done by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby on the book. Because they're with 154 up until the end of basically the book Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., which basically we're discussing first reviews of that. Excuse me. We have Jim Serenko doing the artwork, writing artwork for that one. Now, in the case of 150 to 158, we have the return of Hydra. Yes, Hydra returns for this big, epic story arc. We also the debut of Hydra Island, which pops up later in a later storyline, in a later book. I at least got handed to basically them creating this damn thing. Yeah, it pops up in issue 156. At one point it was destroyed at first, but then it came back in later. It came back in an issue of, I think it was like Nick Fury, I think it was. Yeah. It's here for like 3 issues, but mostly basically got to thank Jim Steranko for creating this damn island. Mm-hmm. But this whole storyline is simply the return of Hydra. Yeah, and it does wrap up to 158. Yeah, that's how long this story arc is. And yeah, and then in this storyline we reveal the true leader of Hydra, who is Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. Yep, they don't reveal this in issue 150 just yet. He's personating somebody else at this point in time. This is not revealed until I think like 154, I think it is. I'm trying to think what basically this issue was. Basically, this was revealed in. Yeah, and also, like I said, 154 is when Jim Steranko took over the book. I wasn't really a big fan of how Gabe Jones was colored in here. They made him like very grayish, not like how he's supposed to be drawn later on. I thought that was kind of stupid, but it was the times. So, yeah, the whole thing with Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, he's not revealed this Supreme Hydra in issue 157. And is also the first appearance of the Satan Claw. The Satan Claw is simply put basically an item he would have. He would have basically as his primary weapon, and he would have a lot over the years. So that's pretty much what it is. And 158 is simply put the conclusion of the story arc. Yeah, and also there's a woman named Lori Brown, who's sort of in the way. How should I put this? She was kind of in the way Nick Fury's love interest very briefly. And then pretty much basically it didn't go anywhere because there was not one infatuated with Nick Fury. Because basically 159, it's no Hydra this issue per se. It's more like just a calm down issue. Captain America guest stars. We have the first appearance of Contessa Valentina Aligera del Valentin, who, where she shows up, got a white streak in her hair for no explained reason. A very beautiful woman who basically tells Nick Fury, basically give him a judo flip because basically gives her a sexist comment. And she becomes pretty much his primary love interest from this point forward. Now, I should point out, though, you can tell easily by how the artwork is drawn. She's madly in love with Nick Fury. And he's oblivious to this. Now, 160 is the start of a new story arc. Well, basically, 160 we have the return of Johnny Woo for the first time since Yellow Claw number 4 back in 1956. And he is here because basically laid the groundwork for the return of Yellow Claw. Though it's not the legit Yellow Claw. No, the one appeared in this issue was later going to be a robot. Yeah. And this storyline goes on from 161. I think it goes to about 168, I think it does. Yeah, it's interesting the fact that they actually do this, where they show him up at 161. And he's here for up until 167, basically for a 7-part story arc. So it's like, okay, first we have a 9-part story arc with the return of Hydra, and then we have basically a standalone issue. Then we have for, 160, the prelude to the return of Yellow Claw, and we wrap up at 167. Was really cool by Jim Steranko doing it. And they reveal the end of this basically the whole time fighting a robot. Yep. And then 168 basically is Doc Doom. Doc Doom makes guest appearance in here. Well, actually, it was more like basically just a quick guest star. And then pretty much right after this, Nick Fury gets a solo title. Yep. We have the first appearance of Scorpino, the original one. Well, he was LMD. This is supposed to be a version of basically Nick Fury's brother. Yep. Yeah. This is going to be an LMD. The actual Jake Fury wouldn't show up actually made first appearance in Strange Tales 159. Yeah, and here's the strange thing about this issue, per se. The fact that this will be referenced in issue of Avengers. Yep. It's a really cool cover. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Masterworks, it only collects the first 3 issues of Nick Fury book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, by the way, those issues that go straight to basically 1968. It goes from 67 to basically 66, 68. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what about issues 2 and 3? Now, let me show up issue 2 here. Also, you also got to thank Jim Steranko for putting Nick Fury into his iconic suit he's worn over the years. Yep. No longer the business suit that he wore previously. He's basically... by the way, this cover here, this image, if you look at Nick Fury, this is a popular image pops up for him. This was from the last issue of Strange Tales. Yeah. Yeah, and then pretty much with issue 2, he basically, how to put this, in issue number 2, This one, well, they fight someone called Centaurus and Arms Man. Yeah, this is basically Contessa also guest starring in this issue. And I think it was this issue in particular where they had a very infamous panel. Here it is right here. I found it. Yeah, Nick Fury and Contessa look like in like an office or like a hotel someplace for relaxing. And then Contessa basically starts putting moves on him. We're left with about the kiss and they cut to his gun. Yeah, I've heard there was a reason for this. Why this page is like this. Why it's like, oh yeah, we have Contessa and Nick Fury about the smooch, and they cut to Nick Fury's gun. Well, at least probably her gun. The reason why is because it was the 60s. Now, the Comic Con Authority probably would not allow the show characters kissing on panel, and that was simply the reason for it. And that panel was very infamous. And don't blame Jim Steranko for that. He basically, I don't blame him for that. I blame the Comic Book Authority for that panel. But it's a really good issue. Some dinosaur stuff. And then we happened where issue number 3, where like Nick Fury goes to like a grave. It's a really interesting issue per se. Lots of dialogue in this one issue alone. Excuse me. Yeah. Where it's like, it's a flashback story to basically when Nick Fury's fighting in World War II by himself. That's most of what this is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this book is just excellent. I love it. I give basically the Strange Tales 150, 153 and more Masterworks Nick Fury to S.H.I.E.L.D. a 10 out of 10 because these are excellent stuff here. Yep. And that's another thing done by Jack Kirby. Yep. Now, if you're really curious, though, how long did Jim Steranko stay on as... Now, Nick Fury... Now, here's something interesting about Jack Kirby when he does Nick Fury. Where, basically with Strange Tales... If I can find the page here. Oh, it's John Byrne. Here we go. Now, Nick Fury... Now, Jack Kirby himself... Where, when it comes to Strange Tales, he mostly just did the Human Torch and Nick Fury stories. Yeah. And basically, at 153, he is done with this book. So, when it comes to him doing this book particularly, I have reviewed most of his time on the book. Yes, most of his time. The only thing I have not reviewed yet from his time on the book is probably the Human Torch issues and the early stuff. The only stuff I have reviewed from him is basically, well, his Avengers issues, Amazing Adventures. I pretty much almost got his Captain America stuff. There's a little bit left to go for him with that one. So what's left? Black Panther, Devil Dinosaur. There's some Strange Mystery stuff. Machine Man. There's some Strange Tales. Tales of Suspense. The before Iron Man stuff. Tales of Astonish. Most same thing with that one too. Pre Ant-Man stuff. 2000 Space Odyssey, and that's it. Now, Jim Steranko. Excellent artist this guy is. How long did he say doing Nick Fury, you might be asking? Well, okay, he did the first 3 issues, and then he left with issue 5. But he did the covers for issues 4, 6, and 7. But he was done with this book, with issue 5. So, with this, I've covered a little bit of his time at Marvel. What else have I covered from Marvel? Well, I have covered his Captain America issues, the 3 issues he did for the book, his 2 issues of X-Men, and now I pretty much covered his Strange Tales stuff. So basically, yeah, the guy doesn't have a lot of work. He's been looked like he's been retired since 1984, but looks like he still does cover work. But mostly, I think he just does novels. But I'm sure he does appreciate getting stuff signed for stuff he worked on. Yes, so I've covered, I'd say with this point, about most of his time at Marvel. So what is left for him? 1 issue of Nick Fury, Our Love Story, and Tower Shells, and boom. And that's it. Just about 3 books. And that's it. I have covered basically 1 book from his time at DC, Slayton's Big Score. We did pin up for that one. And that was it. Yeah. Not a lot of stuff for Jim Steranko. Really excellent artist. Surprisingly, it's surprising he retired. Yes. It's like he mostly focused on writing novels. Like, That's most of what he's done. But also he just done novels and basically trying to reflect on his own career. The guy was one damn good artist. Still, I think I'm in once, but yeah. So that's the episode review. Next episode's going to be one more Comic Corner, and then Eden Zero. Okay, next video. Bye.